a seat to the bar and join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tansenn, Jess, and Maggie bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk. Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 9.17, Unicorn Fodder, where we're covering the novel Summer Night. My name is Tansenn, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
India. Chapter
24. Harry attempts to call on the White Council for help, but is railroaded by Morgan. Dresden packs supplies and makes his way to Elaine, who he finds is preparing to leave town. The two talk about her attack, and Harry manages to convince Elaine to help him find a way to the summer and winter mothers.
So yeah, he gives up on the car. Checks out a bit and is like,
Poor car.
Yeah, so finds his way to a gas station, catches a cab, pays for everything with the advance he got, which is funny because he kind of did that in Stormfront when Monica gave him. And then he was like, I had to go buy, like, pizza, and I had to go buy, like, cab fares, and I was like, he's like, I really need to pay my rent and pay my bill.
Money just always burns a hole in his pocket.
Right?
Whoosh, it's like, gone.
Every time he's like, it's like, I gotta fix the car, gotta get some cabs, gotta fuck.
Real life, man.
I know. So he finally gets home, and then he's
Putters.
Get some Coke.
Very relatable moment right here.
Changes the litter and starts to wash dishes, and it's like, maybe I'm stalling.
I feel that moment. I do.
Right. So yes. So he tries second, so all right, pride goeth before a fall. Just you gotta call him. You're so far in deep over your head here. You're just right. So finally sucks it up and calls the number that Morgan gave him. And get some random, I need to speak to McCoy. Okay, 1 sec. And then Morgan comes on the line. So you failed. Stay where you are. Morgan's will be right there to pick you up. He's like, fuck you.
He doesn't even give him a chance to explain it all. It's just like, you're dead meat, you're done. Bye.
Yeah. It's like the call is answered with, doesn't even like, hello. It's just like, who is this? And he's like, it's Dresden, I need to speak to him. And then he's just like, oh, you failed. We'll come get you.
So,
they'll be right there.
In one of our Patreon perks is like watching movies or TV shows every Monday. And we watched an episode of The Dresden Files a couple weeks ago, and it's an episode where it's just Harry and Morgan on the job together, working together, doing a thing. It's like Harry basically, like, they have this problem, and Harry's like, oh my god, like, this is bigger than me, I'm gonna need to go get help, and he goes to the council, and they're like, fucking deal with Morgan, and Morgan, like, comes, and, like, they totally stage this whole, like,
takedown?
Like, I don't know, I'm sure a name for it, but basically where it's like, Morgan comes in to shut down Harry and be like, you fool, I'm not gonna let you get away, blah, blah, blah. It was all a trap, because Morgan and Harry were actually working together. Right? But yeah, so it's like,
ruse.
Right, it was a ruse. So, like, the whole thing is, like, Morgan's being his whole, like, fuck you, Dresden, you failed, but then in the end, he's like, we were actually doing this together,
buddy.
we're in on this together, right? Like, we totally took down the bad guys, blah, blah, blah.
So then totally it's like inaccurate.
So weird.
So
super weird. I was just like, what?
That was too many liberties right there.
Right.
Nope.
Right. But anyways, yes. So yeah, gives him no chance to say anything. And he's like, and he's trying to be calm, right? Keeps reminding himself, pride overall. He's like, I didn't fail. I uncovered some stuff, and it's a little bit bigger, and I think the senior council would want to know this, and I need help. And he's like, oh, it's always all about you, isn't it? And I'm like, okay, he's just, like, saying, like, it's not. He's like, this is too much, and, like, I'm like, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know that he really made this an all about me thing just yet.
Right.
But he's like, oh, you think you can just, mock the council and break the laws and do whatever you want, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's got nothing to do with that. He's like, hell is Bellasmore? Like, it's gotta, right? And then he just loses his shit on him. He just flat out, like, screams at him over the phone. And he's like, because he's like, oh yeah, I think this is bigger than, like, protocol right now. And Morgan's just like, fuck you, you fucking fucker. Like, who the fuck says? You always think, seeing this, I was like, okay, this is where I can see you making it all about him. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you think you're more important than the rules, and this one thing, this one test, this one trial that you had to do, and you're just like, oh no, I'm gonna get help anyways. I'm gonna bring in the rest of them. I'm gonna da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And just fucking freaks the fuck out on him. And Harry's like, and yeah, that's basically nowhere. Morgan is having
Fuck you, Morgan.
Yeah, he's like, this was your test. They said we were, and I mean, in all fairness, quote unquote, you know, I mean, when Morgan first showed up to try and bait him into a fight where he could just, you know, murder or be done with it right then, he does say they're going to stick around, the council's going to stick around, but they're not helping you, they're not interfering, you know, so I'm like, I do get a little bit where he's like, no, this was the fucking thing, we told you they weren't helping, now you're calling for help, right? But yeah, it just really gives you a sense of like just how Morgan is by just like completely losing it. She's not even just like,
well, it's that moment afterwards where he's done the phone call.
yeah,
Which is like describes to me one of the most satisfying things of like the 80s and 90s ever. Where I stared down at the receiver for a second before snarling with rage and slamming it down on the table over and over until the plastic broke in my hands.
Right.
It hurt. I picked up the phone and threw it against the stone fireplace. It shattered, its bell chiming drunkenly. Have you ever I've had that moment.
I don't know that I've
I
ever...
didn't slam it a bunch of times, but I cracked it hard enough that I actually broke the phone handle in half,
the
and then was
receiver.
like, "Oh, Dad, shit, that's my dad's phone," and then I crazy glued it.
How'd that work out for you?
Nobody said anything. So
Really? Wow.
I got away with it, but
there you go.
this is a rite of passage, actually.
You know what's funny about
Can't do that with a cell
after
phone.
the 80s and 90s? There were still phones that you could throw at walls.
Right, but those were much more expensive. You don't want to throw those ones.
True.
Well, I mean, what, $5 in the 80s was like $8,000, right? So,
Fuck you. But yes, I don't know that I probably for the same reason it majority would have been like my parents' phone and then it would have been like my phone and my money. But the definite like the slamming and hanging up. But I don't think I ever ripped the phone on throat. But yes, definitely
So satisfying.
The wanting to was definitely there.
At least
on
when
more
you're
than one
an
occasion.
adolescent and
Yes.
doing dumb things and feeling rage. because
Right.
It happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm sure there's more than one time I wanted to fling. I just sadly was aware of the consequences and valued my hide more than but during his
rage.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say Dresden's last ditch attempt to convince him, and he's like, I need to talk. Like, there's so much going on. Like, I need to update the council at the very least. He's like, this is insane. And then Morgan's all like, no, insane was like letting you live when you were a boy and like letting you live when I rescued you from that house. And like, it's like, whoa, like you're definitely going on like,
Dude's mad.
He's got a
mad.
hate on.
And then he does. He's like, there, and then he's like, there was someone I cared dearly about was at Archangel.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I guess that's some of it.
He does
like,
let
you're
it slip, so.
no matter what, roped into it, manipulated into it, set up for it, whatever, Dresden, sort of was the catalyst. That the war, quote unquote, is his fault in that sense, right? So I was like, but it's just, because even for Morgan at first, you're kind of like, what the fuck? Like, you just completely lost your ship. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I get, you're right. If you hadn't been at war with the vampires would have taken out Archangel, the person you like would have been an Archangel, da-da-da-da-da-da. So now he's kind of up a creek again.
Yeah, so he takes a cold shower to emotionally and literally cool off.
And that's what he said. He's like, mostly it's just so you, like, avoid magical mishaps with, like, the water heater. But he's like, sometimes a cold shower is really... and not just when you have those terrible dreams. So, yes, once again, he's taking a cold shower.
It is crazy, though, to see, like, just how many people lay the groundwork for Harry to become so powerful and great as he is, though, because he did try to be like, listen, I shouldn't be the one going to war between the two fucking fairy courts. And everyone was like, too bad, motherfucker.
This is your problem, yeah.
Exactly, right? Because it's like, he, like, really, like, had this gone any other way, and he was like, hey, guys, like, I'm literally being sent to do, like, an all-out war. They'd have been like, all right. That's not what we went after, blah. Like,
Yeah.
there would have been a little bit more like, oh, okay, the council's coming in, buddy. Like, this is way out. But everyone's like, la, 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 la. We don't know what you're doing. So Harry's just like, okay.
Yeah, he's like totally on his own.
Right? It's just like you're saying with, like, the Ghoul and Murphy. It's like every time you try and, like, insult them or mock them or whatever to make them mad and lose, you just, or to throw them off and whatever, you just make them mad. And then they come at you with, like, full vengeance and kick your ass. I was like, it's the same thing. I'm like, you could have stepped in and given him the help, and he wouldn't have had to figure out all this shit on his own, and how to beat fairy princesses on his own, and how to beat fairy queens on his own.
And you've
how
got the whole, like, court being like, how do you know all this stuff?
Summer and all
You could have been standing with me, you would have known how I'd known, right?
Right.
It wouldn't have been that big of a fucking fight or whatever like that. Like, I wasn't trying to be sneaky, but you guys specifically say, we're not gonna come be on your team.
I know, we're not gonna help you win. How did you get involved in this?
And I was like, well, listen,
because you fucking made me. Yeah. Once he's feeling a little less psychotic,
he decides to go put on the boots.
Yes, he's like one clean shirt left in his closet, a dress shirt, and he finds some jeans. And then his
where's all your costumes, Harry? Where's your janitor costume? Where's your electrician costume?
He's
You got a fairy costume in there? Come on.
He's been through.
Where's your tights? Where's your purple sweats? Didn't you keep those?
I was just gonna say he's already been through all that because in all of his like research and trying, I'm sure he's talking about how he's got like his depleted uranium and whatever down in his. I'm sure he already had to use like the janitor outfit and stuff to sneak in and steal that, and then he already had to
wear the same outfit twice.
Well, it's all dirty on the floor of his apartment. This is the whole point. This is why he only has one dress shirt left in his closet. It's because he's done nothing for 6 months, but so he's already used that half dozen. It's all covered in like depleted uranium. He's like, I can't go wandering around town in that shit right
It's
now.
very, very hairy to open up your closet and to see the janitor uniform and wear that before the dress shirt.
Well, if you need to sneak in and steal some uranium, then yeah. FTD, here we go again. And yeah, see, that one's on the floor of Rule's apartment somewhere. I'm not sure the hat made it through that fight. So he's going to get himself another FTD hat and another flower box.
So Dresden loads up his hockey bag with his supplies and makes his way to Elaine, who is hiding out at a hotel by the airport. Mm-hmm. He does admit that he found his car's air valve missing and figures out that she took the other one and does this reverse spell.
Yes. Kind of.
Right.
Yeah. She's like, how did you find me? He's like, I was thinking that, but you didn't find me. You found my car.
So, he did that
I did this weekend.
way before. Because he doesn't have access to his car, right? It's off with the mechanic. So he had to think about this like hours and hours ago to steal his air cap back. Throw it in his pocket and then be like, all right, I'll find Elaine later.
To recap, so he leaves Leah and goes to drive away and the car won't start. Chapter 24. I examined my car for a few minutes more, took a couple of things off it, and walked to the nearest gas station.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he did prepare for it, but like hours ago. Like, he was like, all right, I'll find Elaine, but not now. Now I'm going to go home and call the council.
Well, yeah, he called the council first, and then, but I'm like I say, I'm going to say, I'm assuming that's one of the things is he was thinking, I'm going to need to talk to her again and figure things out. So it's like maybe within an hour or so by the time he drove back to town and called them. It's not like he took it off 3 days ago and is waiting. He, yes, obviously had put two and two together by that point, been thinking about it, and, yes, finds her at the airport, ready to bolt. And is all like, what? You're leaving? Well, I'm not gonna win. I just want to get away from ground zero. And he's like, well, I think I figured it out. But you don't want to know. You're leaving. But have a nice trip.
Again, he tracks her down to a restaurant at O'Hare and then sees plane tickets peeking out of her purse. Or one plane ticket. And he goes, you're running? No, this is just with the best brunch in town and they don't let you in without a plane ticket.
Yeah, right. It's like inside airport security. You have to go through the gate to get here.
Right.
Okay, but it's probably more the slightly rhetorical.
Okay, maybe, but still, he's just like, well, you're running? But maybe it's just like, you're running?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although,
He did have that moment with Elaine calling him on the car.
Yeah, just before that. Yes, because he's like, yeah, I took it off the Blue Beetle.
Right. You had to you named your car after a superhero on the electric company. I had to look that up. I guess it's a children's show from PBS, actually, from the 70s. It's actually a real thing.
Yes.
And the Blue Beetle was one such hero from the show. However, the Blue Beetle is also a bumbling character that often made situations worse instead of better.
Hello, Harry.
Thinking about this makes a lot of sense for how the car sort of functions.
And Harry.
Yeah.
It's the whole, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, okay, I can see that. That's
We'll get there, but it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
At the same time, when you drive a Beetle, there's only so many names.
This is true, too, if you want something cool. He does make it a statement. It's not a question, you're running. He does make it a statement that he's like, you're running. So there you go. He wasn't asking.
You dumb fucking bitch. I knew I should have hated you from the start.
Right? I should have listened to Jessica. Only I knew she existed.
Fucking.
Oh, well.
Me and Harry are tight, okay?
Veritable wizard of the obvious. And he's like, do you really think that's going to be enough? And she's like, no, but it'll get me away from ground zero. And I'm still thinking, okay, but again, we're talking like Ice Age. Right. Ground Zero doesn't sound like...
Also, Ground Zero is the place to be. You don't want the radiation affecting you, like, too far away. You'd just rather die in the onset, right? For real, Ground Zero is nuclear war.
Yeah, no,
Right? You wouldn't want to die immediately. You'd rather just, like, the radiation to slowly kill you and choke you out.
The idea, I think, is those people are hoping to eventually get far, far away and outrun it, whether that's logical or not. Most people don't opt to stay right there and get vapors, but okay.
Listen, any day now, Russia's going to nuke the shit out of us, and I hope to die immediately.
Well, okay.
That took a turn.
I'm so happy. I said in an episode, and I was like listing off world leaders, and I was like, fucking Boris Johnson, but who knows if he's going to be in charge of the UK when this episode airs, and he wasn't by the time our episode aired.
Not by then.
I fucking knew it. Called it.
Nice.
But anyways, she wants to get away from Ground
Jason
Zero.
Kenny, you're up next. Please quit. For real this time.
Knocking them down one at a time.
If it works. Please let it work.
Future predictions by Jess.
Speaking of King
Forget
Charles.
The Simpsons.
So Dresden asks her what happened. Not much to tell. I spoke with Mab and then with Maeve. I was on my way back to my hotel and somebody jumped me in the parking lot. I was able to slip most of his first strike and called up a fire to drive him away. Then I found your car. So Dresden figures that was Lloyd Slate who attacked her.
Yes, because, and this is where he explains it here, right? Because he's like, yeah, I was with Maeve when he came back with the knife, and it had that gooey burnt barbecue sauce thing on it, and that's why Maeve got pissed, because she wanted the blood, and it got torched. So it wasn't so much that Slade was having that conversation, it was like, yeah, she's pissed because it's like, I fucking sent you to get this thing and it's useless because you let her torch it and completely dry it out and make it rubbish.
That's definitely a hindsight moment because it wasn't necessarily clear in the like when you're reading it in the moment.
Yeah, because you guys both
looking at his recollection of it is kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess that actually...
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the knife that she got pissed about or whatever, right? So she's like, oh, okay. And so then she's kind of freaked out by that, like, oh, they were going to work a spell on me. And so she's like, oh, thank goodness I used the fire and wrecked it or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but and then he catches her up to date on what went down at the Walmart. And he's like, it doesn't fit very well. And because he's like Maeve, because she's like, that's what Elaine is, because he's just thinking like the winter and the ice and all that kind of stuff
she pretty much
the
goes,
Walmart.
No, it was Maeve.
So she goes Maeve, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, I don't know if it really fits, but like everything is kind of, and she's like, of course it fits. Like, don't tell me you fell for her psychotic dilettante, whatever. And he's like, no, of course not. I totally saw right to do that. Yeah. Right.
Where's the French toast?
Yeah. And exactly, it's like, it's like she is psychotic and an nymphomaniac or whatever, but exactly, it's like she is smart and she's playing on expectations, but it should be something Harry can appreciate because he's done that a few times. Like when he met with Monica and she was all nervous, he did I steepled my fingers in a wizardly fashion and I, all this kind of stuff. And like he kind of does that a little bit, when Mab first comes in at the start of this book before, it's same sort of thing. He's doing like his, sort of wizardly mannerisms.
Crotchety old man wizard thing.
And, yeah, exactly, right. Sort of playing into the expectations. But he's still like, I'm still not convinced, he's like, it's a theory, but I still need to talk to the mothers, right? And he's like, maybe they can...
It's us, Elaine. It's us together. They took shots at you and shots at me.
Yeah.
You and me working together. They
and
all
obviously
think it's us.
We must be close because, again, they wouldn't be trying to knock us off or, worried that we would actually figure it out, right? So he's like, you've been tight with Summer all this time. I figured, and she's like, no. And he's like, no, you won't help, or no, you won't go to, or they won't help. And she's like, no, I'm not. She's like, I'm not going anywhere near, like, you're insane. And this brings me back a little bit to the thing, and I was like, so Leah wasn't in a position, but Elaine, who is a plain Jane mortal and just was hiding out there for the last 10 years, she's got connections to get to the mothers, but not fucking Leah?
Yes! Because that's totally different.
She's not bound to rules of fairy.
It's so much different, yeah.
Like that Leah would be.
Leah, you may never come and visit the mothers because we're too cool for you. All right. Mortal, you can't do this. Fuck you.
But you still, again, as
I don't know.
Said, they still have to sort of let you in. Like, you're not just finding them otherwise.
It still makes way more sense to me for just, like, fucking wizards to do whatever the fuck they want, right? Yeah, Leah's bound to things
but
that mortals aren't.
But it's not even just wizards, because he's like, you might be able to, he's like, I don't know how to get there. You might be able to ask someone in summer. So he's counting on her and her fairy connections to get her there. So it's still just, I'm like, I don't know, you can't get much more, I mean, it doesn't have to be even Leah specifically, but I'm like, you're not much more connected than that. Like, Leah's like, I had to give up power because I had too much.
Mother Winter doesn't tell anyone her address, but Mother Summer is like, oh my god, come visit me at, like, the fucking next to where the baker lives. It'll be so nice. Come on. So then everyone in Summer is like, well, we know where Mother Summer is. She invites us over for cake every day, but everyone's like, and Winter is like, well, where the fuck Mother Winter is? We've never been invited for cake. Only they live together, so it's fine. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I
it's one theory that you can't disprove.
Because I would have to delve into the insanity that is that explanation in order to try and counter it.
It made a lot of sense to me, so.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, regardless, yes. She's like, they can worse than kill you. And he's like, well, I don't really have a choice. So yeah, she goes and she's like, well, I still have a couple of favors left. Let me go make some calls. So yeah, so I don't know who she's so chummy with or whatever. Like I say, I'm not buying this whole thing, but whatever. She agrees, so he's like, but wait, you'll miss your flight. And she's like, well, I guess I'm not going now. And I'm like, I love how people like this always do this. I'm like, I'm sorry, walk up to the ticket counter, try and get a refund or something. Like, everybody just always, like, rips up their tickets or, like, throws their tickets on, like, restaurant tables and, like, movies and books and things.
It's for dramatic effect, really.
It's like,
look how much I'm giving up.
It's like that meme when it's like you get into the taxi and they're like, where are to, miss? And you're like, home. Finally going home. And they're like, okay, but what's the address?
So yeah, so she goes and calls on her favor, and out they go, and she has nifty, she pulls out, like, rings and jewelry and earrings, and he pulls out, like, his big staff, and she's like, still going with the phallic folk, I see. And this is a straight up
They make me feel manly.
That's a straight up Buffy line. Season 2, episode 3, School Hard, when we first meet Spike for the first time, and they invade the school on parent-teacher night, and Angel confronts Spike, and he's like, oh, you've got all the big, whatever his stick or sword or whatever, stick or whatever. Because I think, Angel's taunting him just to go, like, one-on-one or something like that. And he's like, oh, you're going to use, like, the quarterstaff or whatever? And Spike's just like, it makes me feel all manly. And this is totally, like...
That's funny.
Buffy's back. We haven't mentioned her for a few episodes.
That's true. It's been a good long while.
We have...
Good.
Percy Jackson took over for a bit. It just threw the whole thing off.
An old Victorian horse-drawn carriage arrives with 2 oddly colored horses, one green, one blue, with nobody driving it. And, nobody notices the carriage either. It's just magically sort of hidden,
so
and everyone avoids it.
Of a veil, yeah. And it's not just like blue and green, it's like a sickly, like, corpse colored bluish. Yes. You have your very vibrant, sunny green grass, and then you just have this sick corpse of a... But yes, drowned corpse. So yes, and he comments on it, he's like, this is a hell of a veil, because not only are they not being seen, but it's subconsciously, as you say, making like somebody's about to pull into that park, because this is a freaking airport, so it's a busy enough space right where they're starting from. It's
hard to pick people up at the airport, and I can't imagine just avoiding some spot for how congested it is.
Oh my god, there's a spot there, like, you are literally running people over to get into that spot.
Look at that, why did my car drive somewhere else?
Harry, I don't know if it's happened yet, but it might happen if it hasn't already happened yet, when he's driving invisible, right? And he's like, be careful, because cars will try to swerve into our occupied spot,
that's
right?
Much, much later in life.
Okay. But it's like, exactly.
Exactly.
Horse and carriage, yeah.
Because, he's like, I could maybe sort of be unnoticed, but I couldn't stop people from trying, be like, there's nothing there, he's like, I have to watch out, but, this veil and whatever is so damn good that not only does nobody notice these creepy, odd-colored horses and this fucking horse and wagon, carriage pull up, but it's like, everybody is just subconsciously just steering clear of them, and as they start going literally down, like, the freeway or roadway or whatever they're on or whatever, it's just trotting along, and everybody's just, like, hunky-dory, it's just like, do-do-do-do-do. And again, it ends on, well, I guess, we haven't gotten to all that. She says this is our ride or whatever. But she's like, just remember, Harry, I told you this was a bad idea. He's like, preemptive, I told you so. Now I've seen everything. It's like, yeah.
Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 25. The mysterious carriage brings Dresden and Elaine to a mist-covered land. A raven leads the pair towards the location of the mothers, but before they can get to them, they find a unicorn guarding the way. After an altercation with the beast, Elaine holds it back while Dresden makes a run to get to the summer and winter mothers.
Yes. So, carriage takes off so smoothly that he doesn't even feel it. And off they go, and he, flicks a look out the window, and between, one breath and the next, they go from, Chicago streets to, misty to Lake Forest area.
It's like a 5-minute ride.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden, boom,
done.
they're there. No, ripping open a hole in reality and jumping through. Just
No wind.
Trot,
No
trot.
speed. Just a nice little gallop, and then you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they find themselves in mist-covered rolling hills. He calls it very Bakerville. I'm guessing this is... Baskerville. Baskerville.
That's 70s shows. That's what I was trying to think of.
I'm guessing this is a reference to The Hound of Bakerville by Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes adventure. But I'm guessing. I'm totally guessing.
Hound of the Baskervilles, I think, yes. Yes. That was the same reference I got from it as well. But yeah, it's
That
just all-
70s show. That's the transition.
Oh,
dancing
the
and-
woo-woo-woo trend. I was like, where? When were we talking about the 70s shows? Yes. So yeah, it's all bleak and
Swampy.
dark and creepy and as Elaine puts it, it's cheery. And then there's a raven. So she's like, you better not make any Raven Edgar Allan Poe jokes. And she's like, or I'm gonna punch you. Do you understand? And he's like, nevermore. So yes,
This must
she's
be
like,
the place.
This must be the place. She's like, don't make a joke about the raven. And he's like, immediately makes a joke about the raven while cleverly agreeing not to. But yes, they start going through, and after a bit, they see light, and they're like, okay, must be the place. And then immediately a giant scary unicorn comes up. Huge, a big old Clydesdale. And they're like, ooh, not cool. And it had, it was 18 hands high, maybe more, broad chest, 4 heavy hooves, ears. And that was where its resemblance to a horse ended. So it had the basics.
It is very ominous sounding.
It's very ominous. It does sound very, but at the same time, I'm feeling a little pedantic once again. It is not a unicorn. It's a tricorn.
Oh, I guess, yeah, because it has more than
It has
one.
the big
Tansenn.
curling ram's horns on the side.
Don't indulge her.
And then it has the one big giant spike up the middle. So I mean, yeah, fine, it's still got that predominant spiral spike, and the other ones are. But really, I'm like, it's not a unicorn. It's got 3 horns.
It's a goat?
It's like a yeah. It's a goat corn. It's a Capricorn. I don't know. It's but. Anyways, it's creepy as fuck and
I
dangerous.
guess a pair of curling horns like that of a big sheep, curved and round on the sides of its head, with the base of from the base of the horn. So it's
Yeah, not a proper unicorn. Just saying.
okay. Yeah, okay.
Call it a rhinoceros, not a unirosaurus.
Triceratops.
Exactly.
Yeah, triceratops, but that's different. I mean,
It is different. I'm just saying the whole reason
Shire.
that they have.
a Shire horse? Yes. Those are massive. That'll fucking stab you to shit.
There you go.
Shire horse will stomp the fuck out of you before you comment on how many horns it does or doesn't have.
Maybe so, but he doesn't say it's a Shire. He says it's a unicorn with 3 horns.
The way it's described, it just reminds me of it would be something out of Pan's Labyrinth. Is how I sort of
Yes, with
that
the
sort of
eyes on the head.
Yeah.
Also, the thrushes. Thestrals.
Yes, thestrals.
I'm like, that's not thrush. Thestrals.
Harry
Yes.
Potter.
Oh yeah. Okay, thank you. Yep. Took me a second.
Sorry. Yeah.
So Elaine figures the unicorn is a guardian, and the two sort of figure out how to get around it.
What did she say exactly?
Well, she doesn't at first, because, so he's busy talking about how horrible it is, and then, a fucking moth comes by, and it skewers it, this moth, which, granted, is probably a big moth, but nonetheless, it fucking stabs a moth on its horn, flicks it to the ground, and then pulverizes it beneath its hooves. This is a moth. How did you, That's pretty. It's kind of like when they cut like or they drop like a piece of paper or a straw or something over a sword and it cuts it. Because normally it doesn't have enough weight, right?
That moth is a paid actor.
But yeah, right? Like, it absolutely. Because I was like, it does not have enough weight behind it. But yeah, but I love this line because he's like, unicorns, very dangerous. You go first. She's like, okay, maybe not.
And Harry's like a guardian, and she's like, obviously, how do we get past it?
Blow it up. Maybe, but they might get pissed if we blow up their guardian. He's like,
Maybe
okay,
not.
fair. So then he's like, he's like, okay, you go distract. And she's like, I'm fresh out of virginity. And he's like, okay, fine, fair. And I knew that but he's like, I'm pretty sure, because he's like, they don't, if he'll watch us, or a veil or something, that's what she first suggests, a veil. And he's like, I don't think they
Work
notice
off
us,
eyesight.
but yeah, because it's basically
Oh, yeah, it's got
the
no eyes,
description
so
has-
why wouldn't it?
Yeah,
be
no
able to sense
eyes,
you?
right? So he's like, I think they like sense your thoughts, and she's like, well, I totally would have gone for this shot too. Like, this is like so obvious. But he's like, they sense your thoughts. Well, then you're safe. So yeah, so that's when she's like, so yeah, then he's like, we'll have to distract her. And she's like, well, no, virginity. And he's like, thoughts. And then she's like, great, I'll just think nice thoughts. Thanks, Peter Pan. He's like, well, you got a better plan? She's like, no.
And they go with it.
And they go with it.
Just think really pure things.
All right.
Um,
All right.
like
It is funny.
white downy sheets.
She's like, well, it's different from the unicorns I saw in summer. It's less prancy. Like, yes, that's the difference.
Well,
Yes.
unfortunately,
wonderful thought.
Elaine goes off to do this, and she starts like leading the unicorn away. Only she fucking sucks at her job. She's not a good wizard, and we don't like her as a person. So the unicorn obviously senses that and goes to kill her. Good job, unicorn. Harry, though, motherfucker that he is watching and just has fuck save her.
They go a while, and then he's like, notices it's not working. The body language changes, so things getting ready to like skewer her in the back or whatever. So exactly, he blasts out, jumps out, and sends a shot of fire. But he's learned his lesson. He's like, just in case this thing can dodge my spells the way the ogre can. He's like, he doesn't actually shoot at the unicorn, he just sits it at the ground, which kind of works. I mean, it does distract, stall, whatever. But at the same time, he like blasts, this little mini crater or rudder, whatever, in front. And the thing just does like a 40-foot standing leap.
Yeah, it's like, whatever, I can do this. Bye.
No problem.
Yeah.
And then comes down running.
Right, straight into an attack.
Yeah. So he runs the fuck, and he's like, it was faster, but at least he was closer. So he like ducks behind a tree, and the thing doesn't even like pause. Just
go
straight
straight through
through
it.
the
Rides
tree.
the tree.
Yeah. He's like, I can just go through it easier than I can change and go around it at this point.
Well, and I gotta give Harry the moment where he takes his staff and just whacks it straight into the ankles, like
Right? He's like, yeah,
That would
it's kind of stuck in the tree for a minute, so at least he's got that going on. And yeah, figures out, and he's like, well, he's on a horse, they're fragile or delicate or whatever. He's like, apparently on a unicorn, they're just a little tender. So sadly does not work out as well as it should have. But then, yeah, I don't know, they don't do too much. They have a little bit more, but then basically Elaine comes back at it and tries a different tactic and sends out a bunch of different, rather than just sort of thinking and walking, she actually like sends
Right.
out a bunch of her thoughts.
Well, I thought it was kind of neat though that when Harry, when the unicorn gets really like pissed off with being whacked in the ankles, it tries to attack it with the horn, but Harry, I swept my staff up, a simple parry quatre, and shoved the tip past my body while darting a pair of steps to my right, avoiding the beast's oncoming. Wait, when did he learn fencing?
So he has done some. He probably hasn't talked about it much.
Another correspondence class.
It must have been.
Buy one, get one free. Fencing and Latin.
Because, yeah, I know he does do some. Well, I mean, like, he has his staff all the time, so presumably he has somewhat learned by necessity or forethought to use it as, like, a quarterstaff and stuff like that. But I know he's done some, and maybe not so much yet, but he does some with Murph. Like, I know he does some training and stuff with Murphy at some point, and it's possible we haven't really mentioned any of that yet. It might not have come up, so I don't know, all his prodigious movie watching up and down. But yeah, I kind of always sort of thought that too, that exactly, like, since that is what he has, is this big giant and Ebenezer and stuff like that, that probably would have been, if you're going to carry around a big giant stick, at least, learn how to defend yourself with it or whatever, learn how to use it, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how much of this is formal and how much of this is just...
I was still impressed. I was like, oh.
But, yes, well,
Proper
something,
fencing
again,
terms.
of that dexterity or whatever that he... Like you say, you've got something that, basically just, like, can blast through a tree. I was like, yeah, you gotta try that pretty well to just kind of knock it aside.
As you were saying, though, Elaine draws the unicorn's attention by casting a spell that sort of gives these childhood memories when it touches things.
Yeah, and a bunch of, like, little butterflies or something she sends out, or is it just little glowing motes?
Glowing motes.
That's glowing motes. Okay, maybe the butterfly is something else. Yeah, so he gets zapped by one of them and instantly has this memory.
Warm, fuzzy feelings.
Warm, fuzzy feelings, and realizes
that's
that,
lovely.
yeah, he's just experienced one of her memories, which I hope, because he does mention the purse bumping against his hip, but no judgment. I've noticed a lot of guys are carrying purses now.
An attaché.
And not even an attaché, not a courier bag, not a fanny pack, not even a man. They're just carrying purses.
Huh.
So off he goes. So yes, finally works. And then he's like, again, kind of the same thing like he did with Murphy. He's like, I don't want to leave you. And she's like, fucking go. Like, I'm holding this.
Hi,
I can
sticking
only
around.
hold it for
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, first of all, quit wasting time. Like, and secondly, exactly, she's like, yeah, I'm not going to stick around. Like, the second you're out of reach, out of sight, out of whatever you need to be, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Right? And then he's like, well, she has done a better job of holding it so far than I have. I'm like, okay, well, yes, but you weren't really trying to hold it. You were just running from it so far. So, yes, she's like, just hurry the fuck up.
Get to the
Get it
mothers.
done.
Go now.
So,
And
yes.
then the most annoying fucking part ever.
Slender, straight, and beautiful Elaine.
Disgusting. Memories, images, wash through me. Dozens of little things I've forgotten coming back to me all at once. Her laugh, her slender fingers, her face. Bleh. We don't like her, Harry. What the fuck?
Susan.
Yeah. Remember
what
Susan?
happened to Susan? Why are you thinking of...
Okay, because he's with her right now.
I know
He's
it's like his
watching.
first love and
come
all
on,
blah,
there
blah.
would be the nostalgia.
And Harry
yes.
is this guy who just has to notice women and their fingers and their face and their nose and their breasts.
Yes,
Like,
I mean, don't worry. A few
the
chapters
outline of
ago,
their nipples. Don't
Right?
forget that.
a few chapters ago, he was remembering all of that about Susan. But
then-
now he's looking at Elaine and remembering back to his, teenage infatuated years.
he saves it. I turn my back on her. Great.
Left her struggling against the strength of that nightmarish unicorn and ran toward the lights in the mist.
Good job.
Run
that
towards
bitch.
the light, Harry.
This concludes our episode 9.17, Unicorn Fodder. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnally's.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.